Good evening, everyone. I'm Richard Davis, president of the Carterville Area Rotary Club. I, along with my fellow Rotarians in attendance this evening, want to thank you for taking the time out of your Tuesday evening to attend this special mayoral forum and debate. The Rotary Club would like to thank Superintendent Robert Prasader, Carterville High School Principal Keith Liddell, Mike Fleming, Dave Babernich, and their teams for their helpful cooperation and assistance in making this beautiful facility available for our use this evening. Despite unemployment challenges and a struggling economy in southern Illinois, Carterville has experienced population growth all along the Route 13 corridor. The need for forward-thinking leadership has never been greater than now. Tonight's event provides us with an opportunity to meet and hear the candidates for mayor and allow each of us with the opportunity to make an informed decision on April the 9th. Our moderator for tonight's event is Jennifer Fuller, a 1996 graduate of Carterville High School. Jennifer is an award-winning morning anchor and political reporter for WSIU Public Radio in Carbondale. Would you please join me in welcoming Jennifer to the stage? As a reminder to all of you, at the conclusion of tonight's debate, there will be a meet and greet of all the candidates running for office in Carterville in the high school cafeteria. We hope you'll stay for some refreshments and personally visit with those running for all offices in Carterville who are able to be with us this evening. Again, thank you for being here.
Good evening. As Rich said, the race for mayor in Carterville is a closely watched contest, not just in this community, but in others throughout the region, as Southern Illinois continues to struggle with high unemployment and a dwindling population. The next leader of Carterville takes over from longtime Mayor Charles Bill Mawsey, who is not running for re-election this year. Tonight, you'll hear from 4 of the 5 candidates seeking your vote this April. They are Sandra Conjardo, Ford Hoopy Harris, Doug Williams, and Brad Robinson. The 5th candidate in this race, Mike Dungan, is not able to be with us tonight. He's on a military assignment out of state. Questions for all of the candidates came from all over this community, and we're thankful for your insight and for your collaboration. As Rich said, I'm Jennifer Fuller of WSIU Public Radio, your moderator for tonight's debate. Just a word before we get started to keep your applause and other reactions to answers and statements to a minimum. Everything that you do reflects on how long your candidate has to make answers and to make statements for their own particular cause. We begin this evening with a 2-minute opening statement, the order of which was drawn before we got started this evening. First this evening, Sandra Conjardo.
Hi. As Jennifer said, I am Sandra Conjardo. I'm married to Robert, and this year we will be celebrating our 40th anniversary. We have 2 children, a son, Adam, who's married to Angie Gann, and we have 2 granddaughters, Sydney and Mia. We also have a daughter, Gina, who is married to Michael Ferraro, and both of our kids are still living here in Carterville. We moved here in the late 70s to be near my parents, who had been living here for several years. I owned and operated Conjardo Accounting for 26 years in downtown Carterville, specializing in small business and income tax preparation. I sold my business in 2011. I've always been interested in Carterville's economic and physical growth and didn't just sit on the sidelines and see what happened. I joined the chamber, was elected to the board, actively participating in operations, nominations, and finance committees. and serving as president in 2010. I was a member in two times downtown merchant and revitalization committees. I was a member and officer of the high school athletic booster club. I was a member and officer of the Tiger Shark swim team. I was a member and board officer of the Women for Health and Wellness. I am a member and president of Xi Gamma Kappa. In 2012, I was appointed to the Carterville Firefighter Pension Board, where I am currently serving as the chairman. In 2012, I was also appointed to the Carterville Police Pension Fund, where I'm currently a trustee. And as a special passion I am a member and have been for 27 years and 4-time past president of the Carterville Lioness Club. I do feel with my accounting background, business experience, leadership skills, continued community involvement, I would be a credit to the office of mayor for the city of Carterville.
Thank you, Mrs. Conjardo. The second 2-minute opening statement goes to Mr. Harris.
I'm Ford Hoopy Harris. Some of you know me, some of you don't. Whatever. We're here tonight to help you decide which candidate to pick for mayor. I'm 71 years old. I'm married, have 2 children. I've lived in this town my entire life, all except maybe about 4 or 5 years. I was over the village of White Ash, at which time I served on the village board and then was elected to the village president. I served on that until what time I moved back to Carterville. I'm a licensed plumber. And by the way, a plumber can fix anything. Okay? I run my own business. I'm currently retired. Got time on my hands. The only thing I got to do is take the garbage out on Monday. That's it. So I feel like I have time to do this job. All right? And my qualifications for this job would be my experience on the village board of White Ash. I've been superintendent for a construction company. I understand dollars. I understand cents. I understand how you do things, how you don't do things, who you talk to and who you don't talk to. Another thing, too, that I'm pretty big on is back when I was young, I was a Boy Scout. And a couple of things that stick in my mind as a Boy Scout is being kind, helpful, courteous, trustworthy, and be prepared. My whole goal is to see this city prepared for the next 5, 6, 10, 20, 30 years. Things don't happen quick, so it takes a while to get them going. I think we're looking at a change here, and change is inevitable. And I'm done, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Next statement from Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Jennifer. I want to thank, obviously, Jennifer and Rotary for a lot of work that has been done to put this together. You know, it's a major milestone, number one, to be in this building, and number two, that Mayor Mozzie has chosen not to run again, and we're probably going to have some changes on the city council, but I think it is very, very important, but the most important people to thank is you for taking your time to be here. And I know some of you have had some health issues today, and we appreciate your commitment to be here tonight. I told her I would mention that. We came to Carterville in 1990. My wife, our 2 sons, and we have made a big commitment to this community, and this community has made a big commitment to us. Talked about running for city council over the years, and talked about looking into the idea of running for mayor, but the timing was never quite right. I was always 1 vote short, and you can figure out who that was. I'm 63 years old. I have had an experience, life experiences. I went to college for 3.5 years, was a radio disc jockey in different radio stations in Missouri and Iowa. Then I took on a career, 29 years with FS, Farm Service. Now it's called Southern FS. 29 years, about 50 years old, I hit a speed bump and said I want to do something different. During that time, I was a salesman, sales manager, operations manager, general manager, regional marketing director, was responsible for supervision of salespeople, operations managers, and so on. I've had a lot of experience that way, serving right now on the board commission, Public Building Commission of Williamson County. The future, we're going to grow in Carterville, and I want to be a part of that in how that happens, and we would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Robinson?
Hello, my name is Brad Robinson, and I am running for mayor of Carterville. With that said, I wanted to first thank the Rotary Club for the hard work that they put into this, and they did put an incredible amount of time and effort. And most of all, I want to thank each individual that came out here tonight. I told my family, I told the other candidates tonight that my biggest fear was not stumbling over words, tripping and falling on my face in front of you. It was walking out here to find a room with 20 people in it. And we've exceeded the capacity of 20, and I'm very grateful. And I'm glad to see everyone that's here, and I appreciate your interest in all of us that are running for the office of mayor. With that said, I am Brad. I'm 40 years old. I am a current city council member for Ward 4 here in Carterville. I am married. My wife is named Jody. I have 2 kids, Emily and Burke. And I'm pretty much a Tri-C child. I spent kindergarten through 4th grade in Craneville, 5 through 8 in Cambria, and 9th grade till now in Carterville. So I feel like I have a pretty good perspective of not only the people that live in the city of Carterville, but that participate in all of our Tri-C activities. And even though Carterville is my first love and my #1 priority, I think it would be remiss of me or any other mayoral candidate not to take into consideration our neighbors and partners nearby. So again, thank you very much to the Rotary, to Jennifer, and to the other candidates, and thank you for attending.
Thank you, candidates. We'll now get started with our questions. Question number 1, the first answer will come from Mrs. Conjardo. Carterville has doubled in size in the last 10 years. What changes do you anticipate because of that growth, and what are your plans for those changes?
Well, the last 10 years alone, Carterville has increased in population by 24%. In order to do that, we have already had to adapt to changes of increased residential areas, more businesses. We, as an older town, yes, we still have some infrastructure issues that we will have to continue with, but our location being between Heron and Carbondale is ideal for continued growth, and that's what I see happening. And we just need to get new businesses in here and also accommodate the people that are here by continuing to maintain our parks and recreational facilities. That's how I see it right now.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yeah, in answer to that question, it's hard to look and see and not notice the growth of this town and what it's achieved in the last few years. My concern with this is it's going to continue to grow. Okay, how are we going to make it grow? How are we going to supply this growth? The infrastructure in this town, as Sandra said, is very much lagging. You can only do so much with what was there that's been there forever and ever and ever. It's time to start in and do something with that. And the fire that we had the other night's a wake-up call on some of that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Williams?
The city, I think I mentioned before, is going to grow in spite of it. I think what's very crucial for the short term and the long term is how that growth happens. being right here in the heart of the heartland, people are wanting to come here from all directions and all over the country. Part of it's right here, the building that we're sitting in, our schools. We have John A. Logan. But I think what we have to do is set out some strategic plans on how we are going to grow, how we're going to manage that. Zoning will come into it, and sometimes that can be a very touchy issue, but I think we have to plan for the future. Carterville's in pretty good shape, folks, and you got to thank your city council and the mayor for leaving it that way or getting it to that point. But it's crucial where we're going to go in the next few years. That's why I would like to help be a part of that.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
There are a few things that we need to do to being a growing community is a problem that I think most communities would want to have. How we address that problem is what's going to separate us from other communities nearby. Some of the things that we have to do, which our city council has already started, is defunding the oil and chip program and funneling those dollars towards permanent paving of streets. The next thing that we are doing is actively seeking grants to replace aged water lines. But all of these things have to be done in a slow, deliberate process in order to decrease the amount of impact that that's going to have on each taxpayer. The water department is already in $500,000 of bonded indebtedness. We can't bond anymore, and we shouldn't borrow anymore, but we need to have inventive ways to finance what we need to do to take care of the citizens of our community.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Our second question tonight, we'll start with Mr. Harris. Much of Carterville's infrastructure, as you all have said, is over 50 years old, and it has started to indicate problems. What problems is the city facing because of the infrastructure breakdown? What do you plan to do about it, and how do you suggest funding those improvements?
Well, what I would suggest on the infrastructure problem is that's one of the most expensive things that the city can undertake. How you fund it, I have no idea right at the moment. However, there is avenues to look at to see how you can fund that. And this is not going to be a dig it all up and replace it. This is going to be a valve here, a valve there, a few feet of line here, a new fire hydrant there to ensure that what's there is going to work and what we project is going to happen in the future.
All right. Mr. Williams?
The infrastructure is a challenge. There's many ways I think that things could be done over a long period of time. We didn't get that way overnight, and it won't get squared away overnight. First off, we've got to figure out how and what needs replacing, updating, upgrading. And it would take some money, quite frankly, I think, to do a very objective study of the infrastructure. But the other part of it is that we've got commitments, and the city has made, and I support those 100%, with a new pumping station out at the water plant, new lines going out West Grand, because we're going to continue to grow, so there's a fine balance, and I think experience is a little bit on how we're going to get there, and it's going to take both people in the city and private citizens, I think, to help put that long-term and short-term plan together.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
We as a city, as a water department, sewer department, we have already had studies done. We already know where the problems are. The problem for us in the city council and as the mayor is trying to find the funding to start doing the projects that we have already prioritized and we already know need to be done. We know they're there. We know how to do it. The funding is the crucial issue. How we obtain that funding, number one, through grant opportunities. That is the least impactful on us as a community, as taxpayers. And we need to find creative ways to match those grant funds, and we need to be financially stable because a town of our size with our median economic income is not a shoo-in for grants. So instead of being a low-income community that has a greater opportunity for a grant, We need to be a community that is financially stable, that can show the government that we have the match funds there to be eligible for the grants to fix the problems that we currently have.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Mrs. Conjardo?
Well, I look at it a little differently. Yes, grants are definitely the way to go if at all possible. But I don't think there are any of us that have not been affected by federal or state fund removals or elimination. And in order, what we all do when that happens is that you tighten your belt. You look at the appropriations that you already have out there and what funds that you have available, and you may have to shift those around. It may take longer to possibly do some of that, but it is possible to do it without the grants. We just hope that we have the available grants to be able to do it.
Thank you. Question number 3. We'll start with Mr. Williams. Carterville, like all small communities and most of southern Illinois, struggles to bring businesses into the city and then to keep them. What suggestions do you have for enticing new businesses and keeping our existing ones?
I think number one, I think we have to go ahead and try our best to support our local businesses every way we possibly can. Look at a renovation that's gone on down at IGA. It's a beautiful store down there. Yeah, I don't buy everything there. If I'm in Carbondale and my wife needs a gallon of milk or something on the way home, might stop there. But I don't see us as ever being a Marion or a Carbondale shopping mecca. But I think the city has started and begun downtown to see a little bit of revitalization down there. Most of you ladies here probably have shopped at St. Charles. Little quaint shops, little restaurants, little things like that. I think that is one step in the direction. We have out on Plaza Drive, both east and west out there. We have room for growth out there. The road construction on 13 is going to bring some opportunities, going to bring some challenges as well. And I see the red sign is up.
Mr. Robinson?
We need, number one, to better utilize the systems that we already have in place. We have enterprise zones through the downtown, most of Division Street, and also in the 13 corridor. We need to tout those enterprise zones to incoming businesses, and we need to do that hand in hand with the Chamber of Commerce. They have the minds and the tools to help the city in recruiting businesses to this town. The second thing that we have in place and we need to continue to promote is our enterprise zone out on Route 13 and Spillway Road. And we already have a car dealership coming there and opportunities for an implement dealer. We need to continue to promote that. And the third thing that Doug did mention is we are making great strides in the downtown, which is very personal to me because I've worked hard on that over the last 2 years, and we're finally starting to see some movement in that direction. And I would advocate not only continuing that progress, but improving our zero-interest loan program for downtown businesses.
Thank you. Mrs. Conjardo?
Well, pro-business is definitely my passion, so I do agree. We have to continue the no-interest loans on being able to help the businesses that are currently here or coming in, enterprise zones, TIF districts. But I also think that working with the chamber and other businesses like I have done, you have to understand the concept of small business. That is a key component to going out and talking to new businesses to get them in. And I do feel like in that area that I do have a leg up.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yes. My opinion of that is, you know, if we could take the downtown area and come up with some type of renovation, restoration, or transform it somewhat to get businesses interested in coming in here. I've been in a lot of small communities that's transformed from what we have to something else, just a little bit different, that draws people in. Small shops, little cafe or whatever, all of that adds up. About this enterprise zone, that's all well and good. But what I've seen out of some enterprise zones, and sometimes they can turn around and bite you.
Thank you. Our fourth question will start with Mr. Robinson. What improvements would you like the city to bring to the community, and what would you do to bring those changes about? And again, how could they be funded?
Some of the changes that I would like to see, and it's probably not the hot topic or the most popular thing to talk about, but I think we have room for improvement in our parks. The parks that we have are very nice, and we do have a lot of space, but I think we're not fully utilizing the space and the resources that we have. And especially when you go to neighboring communities that have much larger, more developed parks, more active programs, the difference between those programs and ours is they're run by park districts that are tax funded, that are tax entities. What I'd like to do is create citizen advisory boards to have people volunteer to help the council and the mayor that have specific knowledge on organization or specific areas that we need improving in our parks, and use the minds that we have here in town.
Thank you. Mrs. Conjardo?
The 24% growth that I talked about earlier over the last 10 years, a large portion of that are young families with children. And I think we need to make sure that the parks are maintained, that we have ball fields, skating parks. And of course, you know, for years they've talked about the possibility of a swimming pool. I realize that is long in the future, but nonetheless, those types of things that will, once the families move here, will give them a reason to spend here. You go to the ballpark and then you go to the Dairy Queen or whatever. That keeps the people here.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I think that our parks are very important to our young people. They're very important to the old people. The young people like to get out there and get in the parks, and they're learning a skill there in this park, okay? And the parks do need some improvement, and the only way we're going to improve these parks is come up with some kind of funding to improve them and get more people interested in improving the parks. One person's idea, in my opinion, is not totally concrete. The more people you can get involved, the better something's going to get.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
We've seen the parks develop over the years, and I think they are a very important part of the landscape here in Carterville. But I think we miss sometimes some of the assets that we have in the community, and those assets are the people. I think the median age during the last census were about 37.5 years of age, something in that neighborhood. 20 years ago plus when we moved here, it probably wasn't that young. But I think we need to involve more people in the community, and I think one of the things that I feel very strongly about is that the city council, the mayor, the office of mayor, we need to be more proactive in all we do, whether that's full-time or whatever. We just need to open up our community more to the outside. I look at Carbondale, and some of you may be from there, and I'm sorry if it hurts. But Carbondale is losing people. There's a lot of different reasons, not going to get into all that, but I think we have to be more open. As the 13 project comes along, we have to take advantage of that.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Our next question will begin with Mrs. Conjardo. Carterville has worked closely with other communities, particularly Craneville and Cambria, on economic development and lots of other projects. In your opinion, how important is it to have regionalism a part of Carterville's development?
Oh, it's exceedingly important. Anybody we have in our community and in our region, we have a community leaders breakfast every few months. The whole focus of this breakfast is one region, one vision. I believe in that. If we are all truly going to, if our towns are going to expand, we have to promote Southern Illinois as a whole also. So it is important that we keep that in focus.
Mr. Harris?
On economic expansion, I think that all the areas around here would benefit if they would get together and discuss how they could make this grow. We have some things here that a lot of people don't have. You know, we've got John A. Logan out there, got a lot of fine minds out there. We got SIU. Let's utilize some of their thoughts. Let's get together and talk with people, see what they think about it. Economic growth, I don't know, sometimes it's planned, sometimes it happens.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
The 13 corridor, which sometime in the future will run from river to river perhaps or beyond, I think lends itself well to Carterville because we're right in the heart. And I think how we do that, I think we have to involve more people in the community. All the good ideas don't come from this group of 4 or 5 people, nor does it come all from the city council or whatever. We've got to include more people. We need to promote Carterville and be a part of the regional growth, but we have to watch our sides and our corners and make sure that some of those other communities don't come after us a little bit and come into us. We've got it pretty good here, folks.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
What we need to do is continue what we have already done in regards to participating in REDCO, Regional Economic Development, because the players in REDCO, majority of them are larger than we are, but we are strategically located in between them. When you have areas like Carbondale and Marion helping you build plans, get ideas, and entice large businesses, yes, I agree with Doug. We want to take care of ourselves, and we can come up with wonderful ideas locally. But to get the big players, we need big minds, big plans, and big abilities. And that participating in regional groups to draw large business, large industry, large opportunities, something beyond the downtown shops.
Thank you. Next question to Mr. Harris. We're going to get a little bit more personal. What special skills do you possess that you think make you uniquely qualified for this position?
Well, that's a matter of opinion. What makes anybody think they're qualified for any position? What I think qualifies me for this position is I have had experience in this position. I've had experience dealing with people. I had experience dealing with men, money, whatever, you know. And I'm open-minded to just about anything that makes sense. If it don't make sense, then I find out why it don't make sense. And if I hear something echoed a couple of times, that kind of makes sense.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
This is a tough one. We're all 21. We all live within Carterville, so we're all qualified to be mayor. Now, I think my experience over the years of directly supervising people, I've hired people and I've fired people. Now, don't everybody get all nervous. But the hardest thing to do is to create an environment that allows self-motivated people the opportunity to succeed. And in my humble opinion, I think we need to do more of that within the city of Carterville.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
Well, first and foremost, I think what sets me apart from the other candidates is the fact that I do sit on the city council. I've been affiliated with the city in one capacity or another for over 20 years. I understand how the city is supposed to work. I know what works well. I know the areas that need improving, and I know what things are absolutely wrong. And the learning curve with me as a candidate will not be there. Even though these folks are wonderful people and their hearts are in the right place, with any of them being elected, you're going to have a 1 to 2 year learning curve in an area, in a time when it's very important that we have somebody step in in a leadership role and continue our financial success, our business touting, and continue to keep Carterville on the right path.
Thank you. Mrs. Conjardo?
Okay. First off, I do feel like the city is run like a big business, and it should be run that way. And the fact that I have had my own business for 26 years, the fact that it is an accounting business, the fact that I have and still do work very closely with the chambers, the civic organizations, I do feel like this does give me somewhat of a step up in that area too. But I do understand what Brad is trying to say, that yes, there is a learning curve, but I think the learning curve is also going to apply to him as a mayor as opposed to an alderman. I think we all will have to learn.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Mr. Williams. The mayor's salary this year will soon be raised. Carbondale has a lower salary for its mayor, but it also has a full-time city manager. Please talk about your opinion on which is a better scenario for the management of this city. Would you have any plans to change the current structure, and describe any changes you might make?
I don't think changing the structure. I think my whole career has been spent on when it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work. And when the work's done, then you can go home. I don't know if that's 20 hours a week, 40 hours, 80, 90, I don't know. But I think the commitment that I see is that there's an office in City Hall. I think you have to make yourself available. And that's my commitment if I'm so elected to be the mayor of this community. It doesn't matter. Those hours may be not from 8 to 5, but they may be noon to 9. You have to be available, and that's the commitment that I'm willing to make for this community to get the work done.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
I do think that a city manager would be great. The only problem is with the size of our community and the size of our budget, to hire someone of that caliber with the credentials, with the experience and capabilities would be considerably more than what the mayor's salary is now. Do I think someday we'll get there? Yes, I do, and I think it would be a good move. Structurally, what I would like to do is to consider at some time down the road potentially adding one person to City Hall and coordinate their efforts along with the current employees to cross-train for every position. Because our mayor position, city clerk, and treasurer are all elected, and they all come up at the same time. What I want to avoid is the possibility of 4 years from now having people elected that have no experience as a treasurer, no experience as a clerk, and no experience as a mayor. We need to have a backup plan to prevent that from happening, and I think you can do it without hiring a city manager.
Thank you. Ms. Conjardo?
Well, I truly feel like if the departments are run within their own departments and run with qualified people, that we do not need a city manager. I think having the size community that we do, a full-time available mayor would be able to do that. The mayor does not have to be micromanaging every department if they are run with efficiency. So I believe that we can operate within the system that we currently have by just maximizing the departments.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
I kind of got to agree with Sandra on that. I think if we would maximize our departments and get our city council more involved in what they're doing and what we're doing, is we don't need a city manager. However, how much time the mayor spends there, that's totally up to the mayor. That's listed as a part-time job. However, I've never seen a part-time job. Anybody that works at a job is going to work at it 24/7. And I don't know what the answer to that question is, other than to tell you that I would be there to work that problem out the best it can be worked out.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Mr. Robinson. Some of you have already touched on the answer to this, but we received this question multiple times, so I'm obligated to ask it again. When it comes to the time necessary for this job, what are your plans? Will you be a full-time mayor, or do you have other priorities? And will you be available 24/7 as your community needs you?
Yes. Yes, I will be available 24/7. And yes, I do have a full-time job. I work as an EMS system coordinator for Southern Illinois Healthcare. But even though I have a full-time job, like the majority of you, and raising a family, like the majority of you, I also have the experience and I have the commitment to do this job and to do it right. I have a cell phone that I keep with me all the time, and any of you that I've knocked on your door or have seen my Facebook page, you have my cell phone number. I'm reachable. I have email that comes to my phone. I use it, and it makes me more productive. But I will be your mayor, whether you vote for me or not, and I will do my best and give 100% effort to ensure that this city continues in a forward motion.
Thank you. Mrs. Conjardo?
Well, the timing is perfect for me. Since I did sell my business in 2011, I am available. My children are grown. I do feel like with all of the changes that are coming in with the cancer center and all, that we do need a full-time mayor. We don't need the full-time mayor in another city. We need them here. Now, whether you have 9 to 5 hours, of course not. But I just feel like the mayor does need to be available, and I do have the time to devote to that.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Now, well, my answer to that question is yes, I would be a full-time mayor. I have the time to spend on it and willing to give that time. The only problem I have is, like Brad said, you know, you can email him or call him on the phone. I like to talk to somebody straight up, look right in their eye and talk to them and see what their feelings are with what they're saying. And I'll grant you, boy, I'm in the whole bad on this electronic age that y'all got going right now. However, I'm evolving with it.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
And I touched briefly on it earlier, but I'll go back to it. I am a licensed real estate broker. I work for my wife. As a licensed real estate broker, we're very independent. And my wife and I have talked about this a lot. It is her business, and she says I'm part owner, but I don't think so. But anyway, we have kicked this around a lot. It took 2 years before we ever decided to work together. We've talked about this a lot. I guarantee it's going to take a lot of time in the beginning. It does whenever you start a new career or a new job. Not running a city, being the mayor of a city, I think is one that is simply run like a business. You have the city council. They set the policies, the procedures. They then employ a general manager, which in this case the mayor is voted in. It's up to the mayor to get the work done. He hires department heads. Our department heads need to step up, and then they will get the work done on a daily basis. You still got to be there to inspect what you expect.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We've reached the halfway point here this evening, and we wanted to give our candidates the opportunity to say something they may have run out of time for earlier, or perhaps bring up an issue that they had not already addressed. Each candidate will get 2 minutes in this rebuttal period before we head back to our question and answers. And again, we're going with the same order, so our first 2-minute rebuttal segment will go to Mrs. Conjardo.
Well, I feel like so far I have actually had time to answer the questions, but what I think we do need to look at is the only thing I did not really detail was our working with other communities. We do that on a monthly basis with the chambers. We work with the tourism bureaus. We are aware of what's going on within the city. And I think that that is part of what is going to make Carterville a better place in the future is because we are going to continue with that kind of synergy. So, and I feel like since we are already doing it, I still am a logical choice for that.
Right. Mr. Harris, any rebuttal?
Yeah, I'd like to rebuttal on being mayor, okay? Just kind of cover all the bases. To my opinion, and from what I know about the laws, is the mayor is there to see that things get done. And he's responsible to see that they do get done. All right, the mayor should delegate the water department to do their job. They should delegate the street department to do their job. Do these departments have budgets to work on? Can they do their job? It's not for me to tell the superintendents or the heads of these departments every move to make. If they don't know what they're doing, then we need to get somebody in there that knows what they're doing and make decisions. One person can't make all of the decisions, I'll guarantee you that. I'm no policeman. I have no idea about police work. That's why we have a police chief. I'm no firefighter. All I know is pour water on it or get away from it. That's why we have a very adequate fire department. We have people up there that knows what they're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
I don't really have anything specific. I guess I would go back just a little bit because I think it is going to be a major issue as we move forward, and that's in this infrastructure. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and working with the Public Building Commission in the last couple of years as chairman, we've had to go out and look at different sources rather than the taxpayer dollars and how we do that. We're working through a bond issue right now, or selling bonds, and right now you can look at a 20-year bond at about 0.9%. That's not bad if you have to. Rural development, there are a lot of different ways that we can grow and not put the burden all on the taxpayer. I'm not saying raise taxes to just go out and borrow money, but I'm saying if you can do it financially that way, then we have to maintain our community. Because if you look at it, the mayor's responsibility is to improve and maintain the safety, the health, and the welfare of the community. I think that's very important. So there are a lot of different ways, and I think my experience in working with some of these areas lends itself very well.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
Yes, the one thing I wanted to mention when it came to me being employed, it's not a bad thing to be employed, and I'm fortunate enough to work for probably one of the largest private companies in Southern Illinois, and I have a flexible schedule. I'm a salaried employee, and as long as I do my job there, if there are commitments with the city or anywhere else, I'm allowed to meet those. I really don't see it. I see it more as an asset than a liability. I'm closer to the median age of the people that live in this town, and I use the electronic fangled things, as many of our citizens do. And that doesn't mean that I won't meet face-to-face with anyone. It means that I can coordinate a meeting very quickly and easily. And with that said, I think that being employed by a business, by a company like that, a healthcare company in the age of sweeping healthcare legislation and cuts in state and federal funding, I'm exposed to many different ways to do more with less, be more efficient and more productive, and spend less money doing it. I work for a wonderful place that sets examples daily on how to provide the best for less. And I think that's an asset to this job.
Thank you. We'll return now to our normal questions and answers, beginning again with Mrs. Conjardo. What are your thoughts on involving the citizens of Carterville in the decision-making process on some issues, on particularly, say, an advisory board or something like that?
I think that's an excellent idea. Who knows better what the community wants than the people that are living in it? I know that this is one of the things that I think Brad has talked about, that possibly forming advisory committees. And I would have to second that. I think that's a good idea to get the input of the public and just see where our city needs to grow from there.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I kind of go along with Sandra on that. I think we should have a citizens advisory board. I also think we should have community meetings and advertise in meetings and try to get the people involved in our community to get their ideas on what they want. It's not what I want, it's not what she wants, it's what everybody wants.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
I don't think we can be all things to all people, but I do think that we need to involve more people in the decisions. There's an old adage, too much analysis creates paralysis. And I think that's why you look at, in my opinion, in a mayor that can say, okay, we need to look at this group or develop an advisory board. And I believe in that. But there comes a point where you got to say, okay, time out, now we have to act. And I think the experience that I've got and lends itself very well in working with different groups in the past 30 plus years.
Mr. Robinson?
I've been an advocate of what I named a citizen advisory board or committee or whatever you wanted to call it, but we have a very special, tight-knit community with many organizations already in place, and I think there's two ways that we can improve getting input from the citizens, either going directly to the organizations that are already there. An example would be when we're trying to improve parks or we're looking to spend money or start a new project, we need to deal with a board that already has experience, like the Tri-C Athletics Board. Same thing for business with the Chamber of Commerce and so on. But we have a wealth of knowledge in this community. Right up here at this table, we have a paramedic administrator, a real estate broker, a plumber, and an accountant. Out in this crowd, we probably have healthcare providers, architects, engineers. We have a wealth of knowledge that we could tap into at any time to guide the mayor and the council into making the best decisions.
Thank you. Next question. What about engaging the youth? How involved should the young people in this community be in planning for the future of their home, and what projects would you propose to keep them involved? Mr. Harris?
Well, I think it's very important to get the young people involved in our community because they're what's going to keep it going after we're gone. As far as projects, the city right now has a project where they hire people in the summertime from the high school here, the young people, to work in the city to see what's going on. They have an ongoing project where some of them work up there in the city hall during this, just almost every day. And I think that the young people should get more involved in this community. How to get them involved, I don't have a plan at the moment, but I'll guarantee you I can get you one. Huh?
All right. Thank you. Mr. Williams?
The future of our community is, and hopefully that most of the youngsters would stay in our area, Southern Illinois in general, and Carterville in particular. I think we have a tremendous asset that we don't tap enough, and that is working through the school. And I think that's where it has to start. And we have to accept the fact that youngsters may not believe everything we do. Had some folks the other day suggest, with all the infrastructure issues, why not privatize the water and sewer system? Not sure if I'm ready for that. But I think we have to look at those things and have an open mind and say, why not, instead of, no, we can't.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
Really 3 or 4 ideas. Facebook and Twitter, 1 and 2. If the city had a presence on Facebook and Twitter, that's where the young people are right now. They're Twittering, they're tweeting, and they're on Facebook. We need to have a presence there, and we need to do more on Twitter and Facebook than say, city council meeting, second Tuesday every month, come on down, because they won't. But we need to begin by having a presence. We now have a web presence. We need to have Facebook and Twitter presence also. Not only is that going to help the children or young people, but that's also an excellent way to send out alerts in the event of emergencies or other ways to get information out quickly. Also, we need to get students involved in the governmental process. We need to invite them into council meetings. We need to let them be a councilman for a week, the mayor for a week. Let them take a walk in our shoes. They may turn tail and run, or they may develop an interest, but I think it's worthy of trying.
Thank you. Mrs. Conjardo?
Well, I would have to say that our youth are involved. I've been involved in a lot of different projects, and anytime that we have needed help, all we had to do is pick up the phone and talk to the school, and they're sending over National Honor Society kids to work the 5K race. They're noticing what the chamber is doing. There's the Future Business Leaders of America. There's our athletic programs. I think our kids are aware of what's going on, and I look forward to them taking over.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Williams. With SIH contracting to purchase land for a new cancer center here in Carterville, and SIU planning to donate the old VTI property to the city, will you continue to support the expense of building infrastructure to those sites and to other new endeavors?
Yes, that's the easy answer. And I believe in it very strongly. I think those things can help bring more to our community. I don't know exactly. I've heard 40, 50, 60 jobs at SIH and so on and so forth. What VTI will end up being, I don't know. But I think if we don't continue to work with those, work in those directions, perhaps a better word, that we will miss the boat. And I think when I look at the West, people are coming at us from the West, people are coming at us from the East. We have to look out for our community and still be a part of the 13 corridor, but we need to get planned out for the future on what we want our community to be.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
My answer is also yes. We absolutely have to provide the infrastructure necessary for incoming business or industry. What I'm not an advocate of is actually running utilities, water or sewer on someone else's property to try to develop it for them to come here. That may put us a little bit behind some of the larger towns, but I don't really think that's fair. I think if they need a paved street and it's our street, I think we can pave it to entice them here. If we have water and sewer and utilities nearby, I think it's our responsibility to get them the rest of the way to their property so they can develop and help our town grow and be a part of it. But I don't, however, think that we should be running utilities on their property at the taxpayer expense for the benefit of the business itself.
Thank you. Mrs. Conjardo?
Well, my answer also would be yes. I think bringing in an industry such as the Cancer Center that is going to provide 50, 75 jobs, we have to look at all different avenues of what we can do to make this possible. Maybe it isn't the most popular thing for us to run utilities there for them, but we need to look at the long-range plan of what that is going to do for Carterville.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
My answer to that is also yes. I'm like Brad. I think that we should provide our infrastructure to them, provide our roads up to a point. Whenever somebody puts in a subdivision, we supply all this up to there. It's up to them to develop it because they're going to reap the benefits of the development. The city's also going to get some of it, but they're also going to take on a liability. And the only thing is when they develop this, it should be developed and scrutinized while it's developed to make sure that we ain't getting an orange or a lemon here. Okay?
All right. Thank you. Next question. We'll start with Mr. Robinson. If Congress begins to limit or exclude earmarks for local building and infrastructure programs, What plans do you have for raising funds that it'll take to update the infrastructure and other issues?
Well, it will need to be a multifaceted approach. You're not going to be able to manage all of the infrastructure improvements, all of the essential services that we need to do at this point on our own without grant funds. The grants are becoming more competitive and fewer and far between, and I am aware that there may come a time where we're told no on every application. We're going to have to look at multiple ways, and one would be cost saving within our departments. Another would be raising revenue in a fair way, but tax increase would be the last thing I would want to do. But when we found ourselves in a general fund deficit, we did a 0.5% sales tax. Even though that does affect our businesses and our community, all the people who visit our town are also contributing to that fund to help our shortfalls.
Thank you. Mrs. Conjardo?
I guess I would have to agree mostly with Brad. That is exactly what we have to do. We hope that the grants are still going to be out there. The infrastructures have to be maintained at least on a timely basis. Our department's operating more efficiently, possibly working with more personnel, although I would hate to see that. And of course, a tax increase would definitely be my last choice. But if we do continue, like we talked about earlier, to tighten our belt, bringing in more businesses that will increase the revenue, that possibly will give us the money to go ahead and continue with this process.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go along about what Brad said, just about 100% there. We're going to have to look at some different avenues to come up with some kind of funding, if it's nothing but tighten our belt and funnel our money into what we need instead of what we want. And that's about all I got to say about that.
Okay. And finally, Mr. Williams?
I think grants are going to be a thing of the past one of these days. And quite frankly, where do grants come from? They come from taxpayers, whether local, state, federal. I think if we look at the federal level, we're not going to get much help. I think if we look at the state level, we're probably going to get less. And one of these days, it scares me to death that the state might say, you know what, we've decided we're bankrupt, and SIU, I'm sorry, we're not going to pay you your $23 million that we owe you, or John A. Logan. We have to look out for ourselves. And we have the ability, we have the stability and the growth potential, I think, in this community. That's why we got to look outside the box and think of and look out and search. And I've done some of that already in my previous life.
All right, thank you. Next question to Mrs. Conjardo. Do you believe current staffing levels within the city are adequate? How many of the current staff working for the city, including the police and fire department, would you retain?
Well, number one, I don't have that information. If elected mayor, I would look at the departments. I would talk to each department head. We would look within to see, are they being able to operate effectively? Are they protecting our city? Do we have enough policemen, firemen? I, as an outsider at this point, do not have that information, but that definitely would be something that I would look at immediately.
Mr. Harris?
I'm kind of like Sandra. I don't have all that information at hand. I would have to look at that and see. However, I do know that our water and sewer department definitely needs more help, of qualified help. Our street department, I'm satisfied they could use some more help. How are we going to come up with money to pay this? that's something you're just going to have to dig into and look at. Our police department, I think, is very adequate. I know our fire department needs some help because when they respond to an ambulance call, it may take them 12 minutes to respond because there's not enough people there to man the station to get them people out there in a timely manner. In 12 minutes, somebody could die.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
I think it's an advantage to not having served on the city council or as an employee of the city or whatever, because it gives me license to ask questions. No matter whether it's the police, fire, street department, whatever it is, that's not up for me to say or suggest how many should be or whatever. But I do think that my work experience, and I need to qualify one thing, I said my previous life, my previous career, has given me the experience. And I mean that sincerely. My wife will kill me when I get home tonight for saying that. But anyway, I think that's very important, and I think that's a big advantage that I would have of not being involved in any of the city activities, because then I can ask questions of everyone. And if elected mayor, and I'm very sincere about it, everybody starts at ground zero.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
The city of Carterville has 25 full-time employees. And if you ask each department head, would you like to have another person on your department or within your staff? They're going to answer yes. Over the past few years, the city as a whole has tried to limit hiring and try to do more with less. I think our initial staffing is adequate at the moment. I do think every department needs to be evaluated and given the opportunity, if the funding is there, to increase their staffing, fire department being one of them. I worked there for 17 and a half years, and I can tell you it's frustrating when someone needs an ambulance and you don't have enough people to leave the station. But with that said, I think the first avenue that any mayoral candidate should take is increasing productivity through technology and other low-cost options first, before you consider hiring somebody and creating a perpetual expense forever and ever.
Thank you. Next question for Mr. Harris. Over the past many years, nepotism has been an issue in many local governments, particularly in smaller governments. Can you explain whether you think nepotism is a problem, and if it is, how you would fix it?
You ain't gonna believe this, but I didn't hear half of what you said.
Well, I'm happy to repeat it.
Okay, that'd be good.
Over the past several years, nepotism has been a problem in local communities and across the state. Can you please explain whether or not you think it's a problem, and if it is, how would you fix it?
Well, we're back to what I said a while ago. For some reason or another, I can't hear your voice, and I'm having an awful hard time, but I have a hearing problem anyway. I would like to somebody else start that so I can pick up on what you said, because I got the first part, but I didn't get the second part.
I'll come back to you.
Okay, that'd be
All
good.
right. Mr. Williams?
Nepotism. Seems like we've heard a lot about it here in the last few months and weeks and so on and so forth. I think when you look at the issue of employees' employment, what is the job? What is the job description? What are the qualifications? You hire the best employee, the best person that you can. I don't like nepotism. I think it creates problems down the road. But I'm not one that if there are issues with that today in city government of Carterville, I'm not going to go in and seek to relieve those people that may be of their duties. I think you have to look very carefully at how you go about hiring people.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
Two-pronged approach. Number one, which if anybody's been in a committee meeting with me, you've probably heard me argue this before. We need to have a policy on hiring full-time and part-time employees, and we need to stick to it. When we hire people, They need to have a background check. They need to have a physical. They need to have urine tests and blood work. Everybody else on planet Earth does this. We need to do this, especially when they're serving us, the people of Carterville. We need to take all those safeguards. When we have full-time positions, they need to be advertised. I think that's where this nepotism issue has come from, because people are hired from within, which I think is a good thing if they work hard, pay their dues, know how to do the job and do it well. I don't want to discount them, but any full-time position needs to be advertised, applications taken, interviews done. Secondly, I do think there needs to be a nepotism policy, but it doesn't need to be a very tight policy because this is a small town and many people are related. But I do think you should not have an elected official being related to somebody being hired.
Thank you. Ms. Conjardo?
Well, I think, number one, nepotism has gotten a negative connotation in small business. That's not necessarily true. Where else are you going to find someone that will work for little reward than if it isn't your family and friends? But in big business, which the city is, I too think that there should be policies in place. We are a small community, and more than likely, you are going to have a relative or close friend that wants to work within that big business environment. So I just think that the main thing would be that a relative should not be in a supervisory capacity over a relative or good friend. And if we have employment practices like that and we adhere to them, it doesn't hurt that I have a cousin that's in the water department if I happen to be mayor. It's not going to affect him one way or the other because I, as mayor, am not controlling his salary.
All right, thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Harris, back to you.
Okay, nepotism. Boy, there's you about a $20 word. Let me give you my opinion of this. I don't care who you are, who you're related to, what color your skin is. The only thing that I require is you do your job and you speak English. And that's about the end of that nepotism business.
All right. Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Williams. We've talked a lot about infrastructure this evening. One question that several people have asked me is what you would do about deteriorating and uninhabitable residences within the city.
And I think the city's made some strides in that. I think there's still some more out there. I think, my personal opinion, I think we should take a hard line on those. Number one, we've got to find out and do diligence to see what the situation is. But I think to help keep our community attractive, we've got to continue to work on those and expedite whatever remedies there are as quickly as possible. I just think that helps us all. It helps maintain our vitality. It helps maintain the value of our properties. And that's not to say if people are having trouble, you help them. But still, I think I'd take a hard line on that.
Mr. Robinson?
We have done that as a city and as a council. The problem is when you see buildings that are dilapidated and a safety hazard and need to be torn down, more than likely we have been in the legal process to have that demolition done for over a year. Unfortunately, the wheels of justice move extremely slow in this arena. So one thing that I have learned is we have to be quicker at the beginning. If we recognize a problem, we contact those people, we meet with them. If it's a problem that can be resolved, like Doug mentioned, we need to work with them to do that. If they're unwilling or incapable and that situation cannot be resolved, we quickly move to the legal arena because it takes so long to get a demolition order.
Thank you. Mrs. Conjardo?
Well, I would have to agree. We need to make sure that we are enforcing those zoning codes. When you have a dilapidated building next to you, you are taking down the value of your own business. And we have to take that into consideration. There are certain areas, though, that we need to be respectful of, and there is possibly grandfather codes that are in place. But if we do work within our legal system and work with the people as expediently as possible to take care of that dilapidated property.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yeah, my view on dilapidated properties is the people should be notified that this is an eyesore, it's dilapidated, never mind. Anyway, that it needs worked on, tore down, cleaned up, whatever. Okay? A lot of them don't pay any attention to that. What the city needs to do, if this is legal, is impound that property or shut their water off, cut their sewer off, whatever, until they get it cleaned up. If they don't have the money to clean it up, then get somebody in there to clean it up and file a lien on it. Right. I'm hard to stand on that, big time.
Thank you. We've come to our final question for this evening. We'll start with Mr. Robinson. We've talked about a lot of issues this evening. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing Carterville, and what makes you the best person to attack it?
I think the single biggest challenge for our community right now is growth, and it's a wonderful problem to have. If you look at the growth of our town versus neighboring towns, especially our size, you see their downtowns deteriorating, they're losing their school systems to consolidation. That's not happening to us. People are coming in waves, and the challenge that we have and that we're going to have to step up to is how to provide essential services to the people who are moving to this town, because property taxes are such a small percent of our income. Last year, property taxes, the city levied about $360,000 out of all the property taxes in our city. That pays for one department's operation for 1 year. So the money is not there compared to the growth that's coming in. That is our number one problem. So we need to pay attention to that and serve our community the best we can while still inviting them here.
Thank you. Ms. Conjardo?
Well, like you talked about, if we were $500,000 down, obviously revenue is our biggest priority. We need to look at how to increase that. We're still come back every single time to bringing in new businesses that are going to create sales tax, real estate tax. Since 52% of our income in 2012 was from taxes, that's what we need to look at. And we can only do that by getting out there and showing the businesses that we have something to offer.
Mr. Harris?
Well, I'm kind of like Sandra on that. I know residential growth doesn't make it makes a community grow, but it also imposes a lot of problems on a community. And what to do about it is, how do we get more revenue in here? The only thing that I can see is we're going to have to get some type of industry in here, some kind of people selling something. Okay. However, over the years, what we got? We got brand new school right here. This is as good as anybody's got. We're getting a new school. We have a new school behind us. We have a new football field. You know, it ain't like things are just sitting still here, but this doesn't put money in the treasury. We got to find some way to put money in the treasury. We get money from motor fuel tax, we get money from revenue sharing, we get money from property tax.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Maintaining the quality of life that we have in Carterville while growing, while working together with people within the community to help each other out. And how we do that and how we plan for that, that's the key for our community to be successful. And I think that's the biggest challenge we have that lies ahead of us.
All right, thank you very much. We'll conclude this evening with a 2-minute closing statement from each candidate. And we begin once again with Sandra Conjardo.
Okay. In my mind's eye, I can still see my dad and his buddies sitting around a table at the Carterville Cafe, drinking a cup of coffee, and absolutely positive that they have solved all the world's problems. Part of me does long for the simpler time of life. But in reality, as important it is to preserve our past, it is equally as important for us to move forward. We need to be prepared for our continued growth by maintaining the infrastructures we talked about, offering the new businesses, incentives, promoting our current businesses, schools, housing, churches, organizations, parks and recreational activities, keeping abreast of the technological advances that help maximize efficiency within our city, and be prepared to make the tough decisions at times to maintain our city's financial health. I believe I am the right person to do that job. I'm not saying that I have all the answers. I don't and never will, and none of us up here do. If any of us say that we do, what was that song? Then I have some beachfront property in Arizona I'll sell you, because it's just not true. But we can work together to do that. But what I am saying is that I am the right person for this job. I have the background. I have the leadership skills. I have the full-time availability. I have the commitment. And I have the passion. And I truly believe, working with the City Council, that us working together, that we can and will move Carterville forward.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, your closing statement?
Yeah. Well, I think what we're looking at here is the citizens of this town needs to take a good, long, hard look at the candidates here. Who's going to apply their time and who's going to do the best job? I can't say that I'll do the best job. I'm not as knowledgeable on some of this stuff as some of these other candidates. However, I do have areas of expertise that will help our growth. If nothing else, I know a little bit about water and sewer, seeing how I've messed with it my whole life. And by the way, I'm supposed to be retired. And everybody in this town has a plumbing problem. Who they come see? Oh, Hoop. He'll come and help you. Well, I want to come and help the city. I've spent some of my time donating my time to the city in the past, and I don't have a problem with that. But I would like to see this city grow and continue to go, and I can't really come up with a concrete plan right at the moment to tell you how to make it good, but I know one thing. The more you talk to people, the more you sit down and think about something, the more you get stuff figured out. And some of these things that we've talked about here tonight, boy, y'all, I guarantee you plumb over my head on some of this stuff because I'm not connected into that up there. And the reason I'm not connected is it don't do no good in the past to be connected up there because you can't do nothing about it. I want to get in there and do something about it. I want to work for this city.
All right, thank you. Mr. Williams?
Thank you, Jennifer. Again, thanks to the Rotary for all the work they've done this evening. I want to thank my wife, Linda. I think she's out here someplace. Tony, my oldest son, and Jenny, his wife. I'm not sure Danielle was able to get here. She was trying to get over the flu. Greg, my youngest son's working, and I was hoping to see Justice or my grandson tonight. He's part of the reason that I'm running. And I think we are at a crossroads in our life of Carterville. I think my experience in direct supervision of people, I think, can have a big impact on what happens. I think I'm a very open-minded person. God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth and to listen twice as much. I believe that I'm a person who would like to do instead of do not. Let's look at it and make it grow. I would like very much if you would strongly consider me and appreciate your vote on Election Day for the mayor of Carterville.
Finally, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you to the Rotary and everybody that has come out tonight. I really appreciate that. The mayor, whether it's in Carterville or anywhere else, the mayor is a position that really facilitates the actions of others. The city council are the people that have the voting rights. The mayor facilitates their actions. The department heads are the ones that run their individual departments. The mayor helps facilitate those connections with their council committees, with their employees, and with the citizens of Carterville. So the mayor is somebody that facilitates action for positive improvement. That's what I do in my current job. I facilitate action between the paramedics in the field and the medical director, and I do that with an EMS system with 4 hospitals, 12 transport ambulances, 18 first responder agencies with 400 providers. And I can do it for you. So I do ask for your vote. And not only that, it's been my goal to knock on every door in this town and talk to everybody. Mother Nature is not cooperating with that very well, so I'm going to continue to attempt to do that. But if I do not find you at home or I don't make it to your door, please take this as my official request for your vote, because I would hate to lose a vote for the lack of asking. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our mayoral debate for the April 2013 municipal election here in Carterville. We'd like to thank the candidates, Sandra Conjardo, Hoopie Harris, Doug Williams, and Brad Robinson for participating this evening.